Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Ebony Akinbi. I'm an educator. I am a mom. And I am really proud of my friend who's with me today.
Thank you. She was amazing. So yeah, so like, and you guys that are watching, please feel free to comment. Okay, we love the comments, whether you agree, disagree, anything. So yeah, so we were talking about we were talking about the pandemic and the triggers and things like that. But another thing that I found interesting was how the book talked about seeing yourself separate from others, which we talk about that in social work, and I think that's really important. And I remember, Ebony, when we picked this book, you were like, could we read something that is more, because you're married and it makes sense, you want to pick a book that fits your lifestyle. So I could see how reading this book and that line could make it kind of complicated, because when you're married, you can't just think about yourself and always see yourself separate from the other person. You have to like work as a team. So I get that. But I think from a social work perspective, what it's saying is forget other people for a second. And this is kind of what I got from it for myself. Forget other people for a second. And what are things about yourself that are good to know or work on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily making it about the other person. So it has nothing to do with the other person. It has to do with looking at yourself. So I thought that was a good point. And it seems like something so obvious, but a lot of the times I think we forget that, like especially in the work environment. You might get upset at a coworker about something, but taking the time to think like, okay, did I wake up on the wrong side of the bed today? Am I having, a bad morning? Am I in a bad mood? And I'm taking it out on other people, things like that. So I thought
Yeah.
that was interesting.
Yeah. I think when I first read the book, one of the things that I took away from it was, and this was when I was much younger, not much younger. I was like 4 years younger, and I was kind of like still like working on my friendships in some places, and like um, there was a group of girls that I'm still friends with them, but obviously I don't really see them that much anymore. But there was a girl in the group who I wasn't really friends with, and I wasn't friends with her. Not to say anything bad about her, but even in college, like we just didn't click, and so she continued to like be um, a part of like the friend group, and so we were just out one day, and like she had done something that I didn't like, and I was just like done. So I like went off. Like I had like one too many mimosas, and I like went off, and then like and so um, one thing that I took from it was like the reactive versus being proactive, and so
Yeah.
to people's actions, because really you can't control like what anybody does. All you can really control is what you do.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of one thing that I got from the book. Um, so
I agree with that.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's true. We can't control what other people do. We can only control our own actions. But I mean, let's be real. Sometimes, you know, you're put in situations where you have to kind of be honest, and not that you're trying to be reactive, but sometimes you just want to let people know, especially if it's a situation where you tend to be somebody who's like feels things more passionately. Like if
mm-hmm.
someone does something wrong, it just tends to bother you so much, and you can't stay quiet about it. You have to call the person out or call people out. So it's hard, and sometimes people need to hear the truth. I will say it all depends on how you deliver it and when you do it. Like you don't want to embarrass people in front of others, right?
No, yeah, no,
So I mean,
not anymore. I don't.
oh gosh, you're hilarious. I mean, yeah, I think we've all done some things when we were younger that we wish we could like do better, but that's okay. we're not perfect. We're learning, we're growing.
Yeah.
She's laughing.
Hey, Theo.
You should ask her, like,
Ask her.
if she has any thoughts about this.
Well, I don't want to put her on the spot.
Oh, okay.
Have you read this book, Tiamara? I don't know if you have. We're talking about 7 habits of highly effective people.
Yeah.
Hey, girl.
And she just got on here, so we were saying how the book is not one of those books that you just pick up and you just want to keep reading and reading and reading. You pick it up, you read a little bit, and then you kind of come back to it. And it may take months. And Ebony was saying she's had the book for like, what, a few years? And you haven't gotten through it? Because it's one of those books that will kind of trigger your emotions. And, you know, so. Oh, look at that. Okay. Did you start reading it? I'm curious if she started reading it. Okay. So though that was one of the big things from me that I thought was interesting. And then did you have more stuff to bring up? Because I was gonna connect it to something else. People should have told me I should read it when I was transferred to another phase of my nope, I did not yet. Oh, okay. She said people told her to read the book when she was transitioning to another phase in her life. Yeah. I could see the part about writing a statement. I could see how that could be helpful.
No, this book, no, it is really helpful. I really, it's helpful, like you said earlier, like even though I said I wanted, there was I can't think of the name of the book now, but I saw a lot of people were reading it. I can't remember what the title was, but it was about marriage specifically, and I wanted to read it. But I feel like this applies to everything, you know, work, marriage, being a mother, whatever else. Whatever, you know, running a business, whatever you have going on in life. So
yeah, and that's kind of why I wanted to read it too. And what really stuck out to me, like I said, was the part where they mentioned about public relations. And I hope I'm getting this right. From what I understand is that it's not necessarily about the PR tactics, like, you know, finding ways to make somebody connect with their audience. It's not 100% about those little things that you do. It's more about whether it's the business, the client, or whoever, kind of that person knowing who they are, what their vision is, what their purpose is, and finding ways to support them in a way that works for them, which can be hard because if you're trying to put a message out there to the public, it sometimes has to be so generalized. You can't make it specific for the company or the individual. So I think that's where it's going to be kind of difficult to combine the PR with the whole mental health piece. But I think the part that where it makes sense is the positive mindset thinking. Like if you have a positive mindset, that can go a long way. So just finding like simple ways to help people think more positively when they're going through stuff. So positive quotes, things like that. I think that's more like an even line without getting too deep into the whole mental health piece, if that makes any sense. Because I don't want to trigger people all the time, you know. But I mean, when you get triggered, that's what kind of starts to help you realize what you need to work on. But again, you can only do it in doses. And a lot of people, honestly, on social media want to be entertained. So talking about mental health issues is not a very entertaining topic. You know what I mean? So I have to kind of watch that line of bringing those things up. And I think going forward, if I find helpful tips, I'll share like helpful tips or positive quotes.
Mhm.
So I think that's the way I'm gonna be able to like bring the two together.
Yeah, I also think I think it's about the community that you're trying to reach because
Yeah.
you have a unique perspective being a first generation from Burkina Faso. And then also um, wanting to connect with African culture and bring African culture to light. And I think mental health. I don't know how much is talked about in African countries, but I know how
That's a
little
good
is talked
point.
about
Yeah.
um, and and Black America. But I feel like it's something that's it's coming to the surface more. And I think when I think about people that I know, there are more Black women, especially, going out and seeking mental health. I don't know if you. I watched. Did you watch? I don't know if we're getting off topic, but did you watch Insecure?
The last episode?
This most recent episode?
No, I'm gonna watch it later.
Oh,
You could talk. Can you say something about
oh
it?
no, no, only because in the end, it's what Molly did.
Oh,
So I think even even the show doing that is kind of like a nod to like if you need to talk to someone because they've talked about mental health a lot in that show
yeah.
and like going I think in one of the very first seasons Issa was like I don't know, or was it Issa or Molly was like you need to go see a therapist. Oh, it was Issa to Molly. You need to go see a therapist, and I think Molly did end up going to see a therapist. So
Oh,
I think it's something that's relevant. I think it's something that um, people are more open to.
yeah. That I
Yeah.
mean, I'm all for getting mental health supports. What I will say though is if somebody does go reach out to get counseling, you want to make sure that whoever's counseling you is a good match.
Mhm.
Because if you're not vibing with your counselor, then it's not going to work out. So make sure you're comfortable with your counselor, that you trust them, and that you feel they represent kind of, not, I wouldn't even say that. I would say that they represent your family culture because, we can all be in these larger culture groups like African or, whatever, but that doesn't mean that every African household runs the same. There may be certain similarities, but it doesn't mean like everything's the same. So just making sure that maybe the therapist understands your family culture. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's good to get supports when you need it. I'm in support of that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, like I also found it. I know you connected this topic to the pandemic and how in the book I don't remember reading that part. It was talking about funerals. What is
Well,
it?
no, it was not talking about It's the part where you have to write your mission statement, and in your mission statement, you have to begin with the end in mind. So when you begin with the end in mind, you begin with you know how you want to live your life up
Mm-hmm.
until your funeral and how you want your how you want to be remembered.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah. And right
yeah.
now is not a time that people really want to be like thinking about
Well,
that.
no. I think. Well, first of all, I think people are getting tired of being self quarantined and you know
Mm-hmm.
they're venturing out and putting themselves at risk. But so I think people are kind of like fatigued of it. They're trying to think about it. They're trying to talk about it. I know I am. I haven't been watching the news as much. So I try to think about it like as little as possible, not
Yeah.
because I want to avoid it, but just because I don't know. I don't want to think about it all the time, even though it's always at the forefront. You're always thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I forgot. I totally just lost my train
You
of
you
thought.
were you were you were talking about how the because there was the part in the mission statement about having the end in mind as well. And I was saying how not everybody really wants to be thinking about the end
Oh no.
while we're
Oh
all
yeah.
going
I
through
was
a
thinking. I
pandemic.
think people have more time to think about it now that because they're at home more.
Yeah.
The people that can be at home. There are a lot of people who I know obviously have to go out and work. But you can be at home and you can really be grateful, first of all, for your health, and, you know, that you're alive, and, you know, hopefully that everyone in your family as well. If not, you know, it's also a time where people aren't able to, like I said, they're not able to even give people proper send-offs. So you can't, I don't know. I just feel like, I feel like you have more time to think about how you want to live your life and how you want the end to be, even though sometimes it feels like, you know, you don't know how much time you have left because people, you know, really young, healthy people are getting sick. And, you know,
Yeah.
and so people are losing their parents and their grandparents. And so, you know, one thing I'm really grateful for is my son gets to know all of his grandparents. So, you know, I just, you know, want them to be healthy and not have to, you know, bury them sooner, you know, than expected. So
no, I think you brought up a good point, and I also think that depending on how close this hits you, like if you don't know someone that was impacted by it, you kind of have you obviously have a different perspective on it. But like you said, if you're not on that end of the spectrum, at least like you said, be grateful, right? And find ways to maybe improve your life. But obviously, if you knew someone that was, you know, that passed away from it, it's going to hit you a little bit differently. So,
yeah, I mean, I definitely know, people who have lost someone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And, you know, too, like, oh, sorry, guys, we're just going to pause. Can we talk about what we're drinking? Something. I was saying how your drink looks so good.
It's all watered down now, but it was a frosé margarita.
she doesn't want to say what's in it.
Well, tequila and rosé and
oh God, you're hilarious.
a mix. Yeah, it's really good.
I just have some red wine. I wish I made something a little bit more interesting. Next time we'll do that.
Next time.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I feel. I can't even say that I can understand what it would feel like if for those people who have family and friends that are impacted health wise. So I'm not even gonna try to sit here and act like I know what it feels like, you know. But I could imagine it's a very scary thing to be in. And for those of us who may not have a family member or a friend that's impacted health-wise, I think that's where you see some of us kind of just like, well, we want to get out, you know. Hey, Isaiah. Hi, Mama. Hi, Isaiah. Are you going to join us? Hi. Hi, Mama. You got so big. How are you?
Can you go? Hi, Mama. Can you go get your cars and go play?
Look at him.
Go play.
Yeah, like he's so cute.
Go play.
Yeah, he is the star of the show. Yeah, and you guys please feel free to comment. I was just saying that those of us who are not impacted health-wise, I know like we're still scared to leave the house, but there's that part of us that kind of just is eager to get out and explore. I'm somebody who's used to kind of being by myself a lot anyway, so I feel like my life is in a weird way I operate kind of solo most of the time. So other than having like a mask and gloves, you know, and making sure not to be around like huge crowds, I'm kind of going about things a little bit normal. What's nice is the weather is good, so I could at least go and explore in nature. But I mean, speaking of making sure that we're making good decisions in our lives, like what things do you feel comfortable going out and doing?
Just going to the grocery store really, and then going for walks around the neighborhood. That's really all I've been doing. Like, I'm not comfortable going to anyone's house. Like we've gone to my sister-in-law's house. I think at this point we've gone to my sister-in-law's house and my in-laws' house, but we know that where all of us are. Hi, my aunt Joyce joined us. Hi, Amy.
Oh, I thought that was your mom.
Oh, no, that's my aunt. We've just been going to. We have like a bubble, I guess, and like hi, Kosh. And so like those are the people that we're interacting. Like we're not like interacting with anybody else. So.
Oh, yeah. So you guys have it set up where it's like there's certain people that are your friends and family that
just family. So just family.
Oh,
like
okay.
Banga's sister lives a few miles away from us, so like she'll watch Isaiah sometimes or she'll come visit. But we know that we're not like going out and like doing anything else besides what we have to do.
Yeah. Do you guys have like I've heard of people having like a contact list where you want to know who the other person's been around. Like for example, being a sister, do you have to know like who was she around and all the people she's been in contact with?
Yeah, so Theo said going for walks in the grocery stores. Yeah, that's basically me too. Yeah. Okay. The walks are like really saving me because we go for walks every morning, Isaiah and I, and it really kind of just helps like the day go by like smoothly, and it helps get him out. I think the, not to talk about this too much, but I really didn't like in the beginning of it, he was still going to daycare, but my school had closed. Mm-hmm. But then I really started getting upset when and I feel I'm really privileged, obviously, just to even complain, even say this, but like I was just mostly upset that his daycare had closed. I was just really upset by it because then it was like real, and I was like, this is not going away anytime soon, and I felt really bad for his teachers because they got furloughed, and one of his teachers had already had like a really rough year, so I was like, this is just great. But they've been really great. He still has like online classes, although all he does is run around. He does not sit still.
Online classes for a 1-year-old, about to be 2.
Yeah, he has like just 3 times a week. Not just 3 times. 3 times a week is like circle time. They sing and.
Oh, that's nice.
But hey Josh, my cousin. It's like all my family. Yeah, but yeah, just those are the things that I feel safe doing: going for walks, going to the grocery store, and going to family to see family.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, I would definitely agree with going for walks. I know someone else commented going for walks in the grocery store. I'll be honest, I went to the shoe store because let me explain.
I saw you go to the shoe store.
Let me explain. Don't judge me, everybody. Let me explain. So I was driving. I went to go run an errand and I saw one of the department stores was open. So I was like, how is it open? And there were like maybe 3 cars in the parking lot. So I promise you, if there was more or a bunch of people, I would not have gone in there. So, and I had been looking for these pair of shoes. So I was just like, let me go see what the deal is. So when I went in, they had like gloves, they had masks, they had hand sanitizers. And it's a huge store. So it's gigantic. It's a warehouse type of shoe store. So I felt comfortable. I felt safe going in. They didn't even take cash. You have to pay with your credit card. They have like a plastic, what do you call that? Like a shield. Yeah, like a shield protecting the cashier from the customer. So I felt safe going in there.
It sounds safer than the grocery store. Yeah,
it was safer than the grocery store.
His friends are on the Zoom call. Yeah. But yeah, the grocery store to me is I go because I have to, and it's like the one time I get to get out of the house. But it's like to me, it's like one of the most unsafe places you can be. And I feel for the cashiers because they have they come in contact with so many people. And it's when I've read that it's like the most the checkout line is where you're like most at risk, but.
Yeah, I mean, when I went,
get out of it.
That's funny.
Get out.
When I went, like I said, there weren't even that many people. So, and you're right, I felt safer there than I did at the grocery store. So if I didn't, I wouldn't have gone in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think.
What do you miss the most about normalcy?
What do I miss the most? I miss traveling. That's like I love traveling, and the fact that I can't travel. And you experienced my moment of losing it with the whole traveling thing. Remember, I was like trying to find things that I could book.
Yeah.
Right when everything.
I mean,
got
honestly,
shut
that would
down.
have been a better time to do it than now, because like now I think the beaches are open and people are crowding them. Like now wouldn't be a good time to go. But when you were saying it, it would have been probably a better time.